Takuma is a lonely, disgusting, sweaty gamer who one day gets transported inside his game and instantly becomes the hottest demon lord in the world. He goes from being a complete loser in life to becoming the owner of two beautiful slave girls and decides to rule over this world by clearing all the levels. One day, while tryharding in his favorite game like the sweaty gamer he is, Takuma decides to level up his gear after winning a PvE match. Suddenly, his screen starts flashing and blinds him. When he opens his eyes, he finds himself as his in-game character, Diablo, surrounded by two dumb-looking girls. One of the girls is an elf named Shara, with two huge personalities, and the other is a demi-human midget called Rem. They followed a ritual as they wanted to summon a familiar to help them on their adventure, but the summon turned out to be Diablo himself. He is shocked to see himself in the world of cross-reverie, and at first stays quiet like a bitch while the two argue because of his timid and antisocial nature. But then he gets annoyed at them for not giving him any attention and commands them to stop fighting and join his harem. Even though in the beginning they refused, due to some magic they were forced to comply. Suddenly a collar appears around their necks, and they get confused as the collar should have appeared on Diablo. He suddenly remembers that he is wearing an anti-magic ring, which not only nullifies any magic done on him, but also reflects it. They all go to the town to get registered in the Adventure Guild and get a room together. While they were figuring out how to remove the curse, a knock was heard on their door. A mage, followed by her underlings, enters the room and introduces herself as Sils, the chief mage of the town. She tells everyone that she wants to talk to the midget. They all go downstairs, and over food, Sils talks to Rem in a very cryptic manner. Diablo asks Sils about it, to which her underling shuts him down rudely. Diablo looks at him and swears to make a bitch out of him before Sils stops them both and moves out. Diablo asks Rem about the secret, but she refuses to tell. So he carries her to the room and starts playing with her hypersensitive cat ears. Rem tells him that she is scared he will leave her, to which he responds that he is the most powerful person here, and that he will never leave her. Rem feels extremely happy and starts tearing up. She ends up disclosing that she has the soul of Krebskulam, the actual demon lord, in her. Diablo remembers this name from when he used to play the game, as he was mentioned as the only demon lord, but never appeared, so Diablo, once he became the most powerful player in the game, ended up taking the crown of the demon lord. She tells him that Sils is trying to remove the demon lord from her body, because if she ever dies, the demon lord will be released and wreak havoc on the country. Diablo tells her that he will find a way to extract her soul, and then goes for a walk alone. While walking, he is confronted by the group of bitches who were following Sils. They seem drunk and insult him. One of them summons a level 30 salamander, which is a very high level on average, and attacks Diablo. The salamander breathes fire on Diablo, but it has no effect on him. As for him, level 30 is child's play. He walks towards the salamander, while it is breathing fire on him, and uses explosion magic to completely obliterate the creature. He then reveals that he is level 150, which scares the rest, and they all run away. The next day, Diablo, Shara, and Rem go to register themselves as adventurers. Rem is already registered, but Shara and Diablo aren't. Shara fills up the forms for both of them because Diablo is an illiterate shithead who can't understand the language of this world, and after that, they are supposed to touch a mirror, which reflects their current level. Shara is currently at a respectable level 30, whereas Rem is stronger than her at level 40. However, when Diablo tries to touch the mirror goes out of control and breaks after looking at his ugly face. The guildmaster named Sylvie arrives at the scene. She takes them to her office and tells Diablo that he's way too ugly and even stronger than her. Diablo still wants to work with her, so she gives him a quest which she thinks would be appropriate for an ugly insult. Their quest is to defeat the giant man-eating snake in the forests. Must have watched too much of Man vs. Wild. They travel for 5 hours before reaching the forest, but after walking in the forest for a while, Shara points out that there are people following them. Diablo turns to her and asks her how she knows, to which she replies that elves have a very sharp sixth sense. She points out the positions of the followers up on the tree, and Diablo uses his Ember Rain magic to destroy all the trees, flushing them out. What an absolute asshole. The followers turn out to be elven soldiers. It turns out that Shara is the princess of the elf kingdom, and she's run away because she didn't want to marry her brother, as is the tradition. The elven soldiers think that Diablo has made her his slave and tell her that they will free her, but she refuses. Diablo walks up and tells them that she isn't her slave and she can choose what she wants to do, as she is a strong, pro-feminist blue-haired Karen. This results in the elven archers shooting their arrows at him, which has absolutely no effect on him. The elves get shocked, and their leader comes in front to use his Tempest arrow, which is very strong and hard.
That's what she said.
He shoots it at Diablo, who stands still, and after the dust settles, we see the arrow fall down like my self-esteem, and Diablo walks unharmed. He then uses elemental magic to create a freezing field, which brings all the elves to their knees and forces a hooded figure out into the open. This hooded figure is the guy from the Mage Association who attacked him with his salamander. He put in this quest request to ambush Diablo and take revenge. He runs away like a bitch after Diablo recognizes him, and Diablo tells the elves to back away and never come back. They all return to their tavern and wait for another quest the next day. The next day, Sylvie hands them another quest, again from the Mage Association, but this time she promises that it can't be an ambush because it is given by Cells herself. Diablo accepts the quest, but Rem doesn't want to partake in this mission, so he tells her to stay and takes Shara with him. Before going out, they run into a young adventurer named Emil. He is clad in golden armor and is apparently the strongest fighter of this guild. He challenges Diablo to a fight as he thinks that he has imprisoned both Shara and Rem. Diablo agrees to the challenge and the fight begins. Emil takes his stance and rushes towards him swinging his sword. Diablo easily blocks it and pushes him back. Emil gets shaken, but repositions himself and gets ready to use a magic spell. But before he could complete the enchantment, Diablo hits him with his wand, winning the fight. Emil wants to fight again, but Shara and Rem explain to him that Diablo was summoned by them, after which he laughs and leaves them alone. Shara and Diablo embark upon their journey and reach the castle, where they have to deliver some refreshment as a part of their quest. But when they reach there, they realize that something is wrong. Every single guard is on the battlements and seems to be very on edge. Diablo asks what is wrong, to which a soldier replies that a group of 100 Fallen are approaching the castle. Diablo is surprised because Fallen are usually the boss-level demons of an area and they never attack in groups. He knows that all of these soldiers won't even be able to kill a single Fallen, so he volunteers to fight for them. They close the drawbridge and Diablo positions himself on the bridge. The first Fallen comes up to him and is about to attack, but Diablo uses a magic blast, which kills the Fallen and throws him away. The others seem shocked, but they still keep coming at him one after another, and after he kills 30 Fallen, their commander, the strongest lancer amongst the Fallen, walks up to the bridge and gets ready to attack. She introduces herself as Edel, and without any more words, charges Diablo at a surprising speed. Edel the Flamboyant Idiot unleashes a flurry of attacks at him at blinding speed, but he is able to dodge every single one of them without even trying to deflect or counterattack. Diablo tells her to use her most powerful attack as all these puny attacks wouldn't even scratch him. She decides to actually use her most powerful attack on Diablo, where she charges him and hits him with her lance with an overwhelming force 3 times, and Diablo doesn't even dodge this time, taking the entire hit on his body just to break her spirit and the other Fallen's spirit when they see that even their commander's strongest attack couldn't do anything. The dust clears and Diablo walks out unscathed, but he admits that this was the first time he even felt anything. He tells her to surrender, but suddenly he hears a soldier call him from behind, telling him that a very strong enemy has entered the city and is massacring the adventurers in order to get Cells and Rem. He quickly understands that they plan to eliminate Cells, so that the protective barrier falls and they can attack all at once. He warns Edel and the other Fallen that he's going to use a very powerful attack, and that they should back off, but Edel refuses. So he uses one of his magical abilities, which is so strong that it destroys everything in its path, including every single Fallen person apart from Edel, who is gravely wounded and backs off. Diablo quickly grabs Shara and uses teleportation magic to appear back in the town, where he spots a dozen dead adventurers and a very wounded Emil fighting against the Fallen to protect Cells and Rem. Diablo gets enraged and walks in front of Emil, telling the Fallen that he is going to die. The Fallen uses his magic bullet ability, which Diablo reflects and copies, injuring him severely. Then the Fallen uses a special ability that increases the gravity on the enemy, which again gets reflected on him, and Diablo copies it and uses it on him with double the force, pushing him into the ground on the brink of death. The Fallen plead for mercy, but Diablo uses his sealing magic to seal the demon into the dark realm for eternity. The next day, Sylvie enters their room and informs Diablo that the Elf Kingdom has issued a 10-day ultimatum for Shara's return, failing which they will declare war on the humans, and she begs Diablo to accept the quest of stopping the war, which he accepts. Sylvie takes Shara, Rem, and Diablo to the Lord of the town, who is himself an insanely powerful person, to gain more information about the elves. On the way, she tells Diablo that he should better check how he talks in front of the Lord, as he himself is an insanely powerful man, whose power has never been measured. Diablo asks whether he is hard to talk to, and she replies that he can be pretty scary sometimes, which immediately scares Diablo, who is already scared of having conversation. They enter a huge mansion, where they find the Lord seated across a huge table. Sylvie starts talking in a very scared tone, greeting the Lord and telling him that she has brought Diablo, the strongest adventurer that she has ever seen by far, to assist them in preventing an all-out war with the Elf Kingdom. The man simply looks at them and tells them to go and figure a way out of this mess. Sylvie, however, requests him for more information, but he replies very coldly that he has already told them whatever they needed to know. Sylvie makes one final attempt at conversation and asks him to exchange introductions. The man sighs and gets up before telling them that he is the all-powerful lord of this town and they have to follow his command at any cost. The girls introduce themselves as well before Diablo's turn comes. The girls are worried that Diablo will say something rude, but they don't know that in reality he is extremely scared and is barely able to think what to say. He somehow blabbers his name and is extremely happy at making conversation, but he gets too zealous and also ends up threatening the Lord when he said that Diablo seems like an edgy teenager's name. The Lord, however, lets it slide and tells Diablo that as the Lord of this city, he is giving him the job of preventing the war and protecting the city at all costs. He directs them towards a map and informs them that the elves are reported to be hiding inside of the dense forests near a lake, and currently they estimate their forces to be near 100 individuals. Sylvie comments that it doesn't seem much like a force, but the Lord tells her that it's not their numbers that are problematic, but their strategies. He explains to them that elves are masters of jungles, they hide inside of the forests, and before you can even spot a single one of them, they will massacre your entire platoon while keeping themselves concealed. He tells them that if he himself goes with his troops, he will lose countless men for no reason. And that's why he is sending Diablo, because he is a caster. Diablo looks at him menacingly, asking whether he intends to discard him after their deal was done, but the Lord refuses of having any intentions like that and even tells Diablo that he won't even have to go against the elves if he hands Shera over, so that the Elven Kingdom can go back. Diablo, however, outrightly refuses and tells the Lord that it is Shera's own choice. The Lord looks at Shera and asks her why she wants to leave her life of luxury and pose as an adventurer, but she claims that she wanted to be known for things other than her bloodline because she is her own person and doesn't want to be overshadowed by the crown on top of her head. The Lord seems to understand and tells Diablo that he doesn't care about this trivial matter as long as the war is avoided. With that, he tells them that they will be accompanied by a royal emissary and introduces a nerdy knight girl in glasses named Alice. She claims to be a royal knight, which confuses Diablo and his party as they thought only men of extreme talent and a very high standing are allowed to become royal knights. She looks at Rem and indicates that she knows about the actual demon lord being inside of her and tells her that it was just a guess and that she shouldn't hesitate in asking any kind of help from her. She then moves on to Sylvie and hands her a big sack of money and tells her that this is for the reparations of the adventurers she lost in the last incident, and then immediately goes over to Shera and striking friendship with her as well by telling her that she will do her best to protect her from her brother. Diablo is shocked at this woman and her communicative abilities, as within a matter of minutes she gained everyone's trust. She then comes to Diablo and thanks him for defending the town the last 2 times and tells him that she will always try to be of help to him. Diablo gets scared that a pure person like her might see through his demon lord persona, so he brashly replies that she should talk to her more carefully if she values her life. Alice, however, simply apologizes and tells him that she will not repeat this mistake ever again. They all get out of the mansion and start walking through the city. Rem asks him why they are not going to the jungles, but he replies that they need to buy a new staff from him, as the residents of this world are way too weak, and he is scared of accidentally killing someone because of his overwhelming power, so he decides to buy a weaker staff to restrict his magic. He ends up buying a huge staff that looks like a scythe and starts making his way into the city, when Shera goes on ahead out of excitement, but suddenly someone throws a smoke bomb and tries to kidnap Shera. Diablo hears her voice and immediately swings his staff, clearing the smoke, only to find her being taken away by 2 midget bounty hunters. They try to pursue them but are blocked by 2 more dwarf bounty hunters. Diablo, however, isn't in any mood for such shenanigans and simply strikes them away into the wall, but before he could do anything, another guy ambushes him from behind with an axe. He is, however, saved by Alex, who comes in the last moment and blocks the attack with her sword and strikes him away. The final goon is found out by Rem in an alleyway and punches him to oblivion. Diablo realizes that the girls have got it, so he charges behind Shera at an incredible speed and corners them in an alleyway. They keep running, however, but are dealt with by the golden boy Emil, who struck them and saved Shera. They round all of the bounty hunters up while Shera thanks him. Emil tells her not to worry as he is the savior of women and tells Diablo to lead the bounty hunters up to him. He takes them away while Diablo tells Shera not to leave his side ever, and they decide to postpone the jungle plan till tomorrow and walk over to get some food. The next morning, Celes arrives with her underlings at the guild and has breakfast with Diablo, and informs him that she might have a lead on the slave collars and how to remove them. They are surprised at this sudden development and ask her to elaborate, and she replies that recently there has been a slave caravan that has been put up, which will leave the city in a couple of days. The owner of the caravan is a master in slave collars, and she might be able to help them. Diablo starts thinking about this proposition as he has to go to the forest to deal with the elves, but even the slave collar problem is very important. Alice tells him that their priority should be Elven Kingdom and preventing war, but Diablo announces that defeating the elves is very easy and won't take much time, so they will go and get the slave collars removed first. He takes all of them into the town, and they find a huge caravan and is about to enter it, when he gets cold feet as he starts thinking about the slave markets that he has seen in the manga. They still enter the tent, however, and to his surprise, the slaves in there seem to be living a fulfilling life, drinking tea, talking, and laughing. A tall woman with a big personality walks up to them and asks Diablo whether he wants to buy any slaves. Her eyes then fall upon the two girls with him, and she tells him that if he wants to sell these beauties, she can buy them for an exceptional price. Diablo, however, tells her that these women are not slaves. The woman immediately comments about Diablo's strength, claiming that she could see the unbelievable amounts of power he has within him, which surprises him. But Shara chimes in as well, claiming that even she can see the power. They hand her the letter given by Celes, and tell them that she has never worked upon reflected magic, but since Celes has sent them, she will try to help. The slaver woman suddenly looks at Rem and comments that she can feel a very sinister energy coming out of her, which resembles that of an evil demon king. This starts affecting Rem badly, so Diablo shouts at her to shut up and to do what she is told. Rem tells him that she wants to go outside and stand there as she doesn't feel well, and Alice volunteers to watch over Air. Before going, however, Rem asks Shara whether she could see this evil energy coming from her all along, and she replies that she could, and that's why she thought Rem was a very powerful adventurer. After they are gone, Diablo is given the task of finding her magic flow in order to release her slave collar. He tries to find Shara's magic flow, but the flow gets so complex that he is forced to quit, and he decides to give it another shot some other day. They all return back to the guild, where he seems to be totally exhausted, while Rem and Alice offer their sympathies. He claims that he finally learned how to see the flow of magic, but the complexities are still lost on him, and he can't figure out how to deal with it. Even Rem claims that she is super tired today and would like to sleep, which is agreed by Diablo as well. She asks Alice where she is going to rest, and she tells them that she has rented the next room and she will sleep there. Before she could leave the room, however, a sound of flute started playing. Rem thinks that the tune is melodic, but Shara seems to be incredibly scared as she gets up from her chair, sweating and shaking. Suddenly the door opens, and an elf wielding a flute walks in. Shara is shocked to see him and calls him her brother, asking him why he is here. Everyone is shocked to know about this new development while the elf introduces himself as Kira, Shara's older brother and the crown prince of the Elven Kingdom. He bows down in front of them and tells Shara that he is here to take her back to her homeland, as everyone is very worried. Shara starts shaking and backs off while Diablo gets enraged and walks in his face, threateningly asking him whether he was the idiot who put a bounty on Shara. Kira admits that he put the bounty out and tells him that he knows the bounty hunters were defeated and then captured by Diablo and his party. He lies through his teeth, claiming that he simply wanted to know that Shara was with a man who could take care of her and protect her, and that he is very sorry for any problems that it might have created. Alice speaks up about the war that has been declared by the Elven Kingdom, but Kira replies that he has no intentions of going to war with the humans, and it was declared by his father, who was just very worried about Shara and her well-being. Diablo starts thinking that maybe he is telling the truth, but Shara suddenly shouts that her brother is not acting like himself, and that usually he is not this calm and nice. Alice backs her up, saying that she believes he is trying alternate measures to obtain her, as he failed the last time with his forceful means. Kira, however, simply starts apologizing and claims that he was way too engrossed in his kingdom, and with ruling, so he never gave as much attention to Shara as she deserves, and promises to make amends, and asks her to come back with him. Rem, however, speaks up that she doesn't know whether Kira is lying or not, but according to her, what matters the most is what Shara wants, and she should get to decide whether she wants to stay here or go back to the Elven Kingdom. Surprisingly, however, Kira agrees and says that Shara's feelings matter the most. He apologizes for coming in uninvited and claims that Shara seems to be emotional at the moment, so he will come again tomorrow to ask about her decision once again. Diablo asks him whether he will declare war if her decision remains unchanged and she still wants to stay with them. But Kira immediately tells him that he will do no such thing, as he values her feelings. If she decides to stay here, he will simply back off and return to his kingdom once again, alongside his troops. Kira, however, strikes the same question and asks Diablo, what would he do if Shara decides to come to the Elven Kingdom? Diablo replies that it is never going to happen, but still, if Shara decides to go back to the Elven Kingdom, he will gladly let her leave and do whatever pleases her. That night, Shara seems to be unable to sleep as she watches outside of the window. Rem wakes up, and they start talking about what happened today. Rem asks whether Shara trusts her brother's behavior today, but she replies that she has no idea whether her brother was lying or not. Rem asks what her decision will be, and she outright replies that there is no way she's going back with her brother, and that she will stay with her and Diablo. She tells Rem that her goal is to keep adventuring and then to open a cafe, which will serve a lot of food and drinks to other adventurers, so that she can hear all their stories. She says that once she opens her cafe, they can become cafe maids while Diablo can become the bartender. Rem smiles but becomes emo as she replies that as of now, she can't see herself in the picture, as she is burdened with a problem of her own. Shara asks whether she could help with anything, but Rem replies that no one can help her in this regard. They decide to sleep for the night and begin anew tomorrow, while Kira stands atop a tree inside of the forest, playing his flute and laughing at the diabolical plan that he is going to hatch next. The next day comes and Alice accompanies Rem to report to Cells about Prince Kira's arrival, and Alice tells Diablo to keep up his guard if Kira comes. After their departure, Diablo starts making potions while Shara watches, and after he is done, he decides to wait for the rest to come, but suddenly, he hears a familiar melody. It is the same flute melody that he heard the day prior, and he looks out the window to see a carriage with Prince Kira inside of it, playing the flute. He turns to see Shara standing near the door, telling Diablo that she wishes to return to the Elf Kingdom to be with her brother. Diablo tries to stop her, but she refuses to stay here and tells him that she has duties in her kingdom. He runs after her and looks on in dismay as Kira helps her into the carriage and reminds Diablo about the promise of respecting Shara's decision. Diablo watches in despair as Kira orders the carriage to move and take Shara away. He stays standing there in disbelief till he is stirred out of his thoughts by Alice and Rem, who just arrived. Diablo tells them about Shara and sadly goes back to his room heartbroken. He stays depressed the entire day, just lying on the bed, but in the evening, Rem comes inside the room and sits by him. He discloses that he is sure that there is some magical property in Kira's flute that made Shara act that way, but he has no way to prove it. Rem gets up and tells him that she is going to save Shara with or without his help, and after a few words of motivation, Diablo gets up and tells her that he's going to save Shara. Diablo, alongside Alice and Rem, enters the forest and ends up burning the entire forest down in pure rage. All the hidden elves rush out of hiding and try to save themselves. He walks into a tent in the middle of a plain area and spots Shara bound to a post getting harassed. He gets mad and slashes at her bounds and the slime sticks to her, humming her. He tells her that he will never leave her alone and turns towards Kira. He is shocked to see the entire forest burning, and he tells Diablo that he is breaking his promise. Diablo says that Shara was under influence, and that's why she went with you. To which Kira again asks Shara whether she wants to come to him and snaps his finger. Shara immediately gets possessed and replies that she wants to go back to Kira, but Diablo orders her as her master to tell the truth without the influence of any magic, and the magical slave collar nullifies Kira's magic. Shara tells them that she wants to stay with Diablo, which enrages Kira, and he summons one of the most powerful monsters known to kill Diablo. The monster turns out to be a hydra with multiple heads, and Diablo is shocked as he hasn't seen this monster in any games. He uses his magical ability to test its defense, but is surprised to see that it has regenerative abilities on par with his. The hydra also uses elemental magic which Diablo is unable to reflect. He tries and fails to find an opening or some kind of weakness in the summon. Shara shouts from behind him, telling him that Hydra has a core that keeps moving all over its body, and if you destroy the core, Hydra will disappear. Diablo takes the advice and charges at the summon, dodging its attack, and slides underneath it, attacking its body with an extremely powerful attack that blows its entire body, along with its core, killing it. Kira is in disbelief and falls down. Diablo walks up to him, ready to kill him, but Shara tells him not to. Diablo listens to Shara and lets him go, but before Kira could run away, his head was chopped off by an invisible attacker. Everyone is shocked as the attacker turns out to be the lord of the town who brought all his soldiers with him. He tells Diablo that he is going to invade the Elf Kingdom and demands that he hand over Shara. When Diablo refuses to do so, he captures him in a magical cage, which he can't get out of. Alice walks in front of him and draws her sword, but before she could blink, her sword is cut in half by the Lord. Diablo tries to find the flow of magic in the cage and figures out its core, destroying it and getting out of the cage. The Lord challenges Diablo, and he accepts. He doesn't give Diablo the chance to recover and charges at him with a flurry of attacks, which Diablo can only try to dodge, but still gets hit a couple of times. Diablo assesses that the Lord is at least at level 120, which is the highest he has seen in this world. Diablo is forced to use a trap to stop the Lord, which impresses him. Diablo then uses a freezing spell to capture him, but before Diablo could recover, he breaks through the spell and almost hits Diablo with his sword, but he is able to blast him away with a magic spell, which ends the fight instantly. Diablo refuses to kill him and returns to the guild guest house to recover from the excessive energy drain. One day, while in the forest, Rem and Shara decide to take a bath in the stream, but suddenly Diablo hears Rem scream. He rushes to the spot and is shocked to see Idil holding Rem. She lets her go once she spots Diablo, and tells them that she now knows that the soul of the demon lord is inside Rem. She assures Diablo that she isn't here to hurt Rem, as if they hurt Rem, they risk the life of the demon lord as well. Diablo and Idil make a pact. She promises to teach him how to free the demon lord's soul from Rem without harming her, if he lets her free the demon lord. Diablo agrees as he feels confident that after the demon lord gets released, he can defeat him in combat. She tells him to meet him at Starfall Tower a couple days later. The day finally comes, but before they can go outside, Alice visits them and tells them to stay indoors if possible, because there is a very high-level Imperial Knight who works as a paladin and has arrived in the city. Before she can guide them back inside, they run into the paladin with his underlings. He looks at Diablo and mocks him for calling himself the Demon Lord, and when Rem tries to intervene, he uses his spell to push her to the ground. Diablo recognizes the spell and threatens him, which works, and he releases the spell. He then turns towards Diablo, while mocking him, and uses a petrification spell on him, which Diablo easily reflects. The paladin is shocked as he petrifies and turns into a rock. His underlings quickly fetched him and ran away with him. Diablo says that the magic spell will wear off sooner or later and that he should be fine. He then returns to his room with the others, where Rem tells Alice about the pact between Diablo and Idil. Diablo arrives at the Starfall Tower with the rest, where Idil is already waiting. She tells Rem to lay down on the stone table and teaches Diablo how to release the Demon Lord. Diablo finds the magical core of Rem and is able to release the Demon Lord, who, to everyone's surprise, turns out to be a little girl. She seems to be extremely naive and impressionable. When Shara tells her that if she doesn't kill humans, she will give her biscuits, she agrees to that proposal. Adele seems to be surprised but respects her decision. Diablo is torn as the little girl doesn't want to fight him as she thinks she has no cause to, so he decides to take her back with him for now. While coming back, a giant fallen appears in front of them. He bows in front of the Demon Lord and asks her, when are they going to wipe out the mortals? She looks at him confused and tells him that they won't kill a single human as otherwise she won't get any biscuits. This enrages the Fallen, who are the strongest and the oldest Fallen alive. He decides that the resurrection is incomplete and decides to kill her so they can resurrect the Demon Lord yet again. He charges at her, but his attack is blocked by Idil, who tells him to respect the Demon Lord's decision. He pushes her back and jumps at her, punching her straight in the body and grabbing her head, squeezing it because she couldn't resurrect the Demon Lord correctly. Before he could kill her though, Diablo attacked him with his magic attack, which he dodged. He charges at him, but Diablo places a magical mine beneath him that explodes when the Fallen steps on it. Surprisingly, it has no effect on him and he pursues Diablo again. He closes the distance and attacks Diablo with a magical lance, but Diablo uses his magic reflection ability, which hurts him. He realizes that he can't defeat Diablo, so he decides to attack the Demon Lord instead, but Rem saves her by pushing her out of the way. Diablo blocks his way and threatens to kill him, but the Fallen changes himself into a bird and runs away. Diablo decides to take the little girl back with her to keep her safe, and Shara names her Clem. When they reach their room, Diablo falls on the bed, completely exhausted after using all his magic. The next day, Diablo goes out with the rest of the group to get breakfast, but on the way back, he notices that Alice, Clem, and Rem are missing. He goes back to check their room, but it's empty. He gets more and more frantic as he tries to search every alley for the three. Meanwhile, Alice takes Clem and Rem to a dark alleyway, and after a while, she reveals to Rem that she wants the real Demon Lord to come out of Clem, as she hates humans and their corruption. She wants the Clem to kill everyone, so that humanity can start from the beginning. Rem is shocked to her core, but before she could reply, the Paladin appears with his followers. Alice turns both Clem and Rem over to him, saying they are the Demon Lord's supporters. Rem summons a beast and tries to stop the Paladin, but he kills her summon and captures it in a cage. He He takes them to the church, where he decides to torture Rem for information in front of Clem. He cuts off Rem's ear and stabs her in the shoulder. Clem tries to stop him, but he slashes at her, cutting her a bit. She gets angry and he notices that she is a demon, so he tries to kill her, but Rem runs in and takes the attack instead. They both fall to the floor, and then the paladin walks up and stabs Rem 4 times, killing her. This fills Clem with blind rage, and she converts into the actual demon lord, killing the paladin in an instant. She blows up the entire church and goes out of control. Diablo spots the explosion and runs towards it. She tells Shera to find Rem and gives her healing potions while he gets ready to stop the Demon King at any cost. Clem attacks Diablo, but he is able to dodge her. He realizes that even though the attacks are not hard to dodge, they are incredibly powerful. He decides to use his most powerful spell to try and stop Clem. He starts putting magic circles around Clem while dodging all her attacks. Clem realizes the pattern and, instead of punching him, uses her dark magic attack, which Diablo blocks at the last moment. She doesn't give him the time to recover and attacks again, but this time he reflects the magic. Even after such a powerful attack, she gets up and hits Diablo with a giant boulder. He gets up and starts running around her, creating magic circles again. Meanwhile, Shera uses all the magic potions and is able to revive Rem, but before she could move, a giant boulder flew towards them, which was thankfully blocked by Emil, who escorted them out of the fight. Finally, Diablo completes a circular ring around her and uses her magic spell, which is incredibly powerful. Clem, gravely injured, is still able to get up, and Diablo is almost out of magic, but Rem and Shera approach her. They talk to her and are able to get through to her actual self, which helps her break through her rage, and she turns back to her normal self. By the time it is over, the sun has risen and Sylvie approaches them. She tells them that she can't trust Clem and wants to turn her over to the Imperial Guards, but Diablo proposes to enslave Clem, which will force her to obey his command. Diablo is successfully able to enslave her, and Sylvie decides to hide the fact that Clem is a demon lord. They go back to their room, where at night Alice walks in and holds Shera at knife point. She leads them to another room where a gravely injured Edel is lying down. She pleads with them to save her, and even though Clem refuses to help, Diablo tells her to save the girl. She casts a powerful spell on Edel, saving her. Alice gets overwhelmed by their goodness and decides to take her own life for betraying them, but Diablo uses his magic to disintegrate her sword, saving her. He tells her to live her life trying to compensate for all the lives that are lost because of her, and she smiles at him through teary eyes and agrees. A couple of months have passed since that last incident, and Diablo has been chilling out alongside Shera and Rem. One day they decide to go out to get some well-deserved sunlight when Diablo decides that he wants to try out a new magic. When the girls ask what kind of magic he wants to test out, he reveals that he has been trying out flying magic for a while now and believes he is ready to show them. He walks towards a dead rotten log on the ground and takes out his wand before chanting a magic spell. Suddenly, the log starts floating, which totally surprises both the girls as they have never seen something like this before. Diablo tells them that for a demon king like him, flight magic is nothing, and to show them how good his magic is, he jumps on top of the log. He then decides to flex some more and uses his magic to fly even higher and further away from the girls, but the log starts wobbling and he realizes that he needs to master the spell even more. While thinking about increasing his level, he suddenly spots a huge beam of light coming from the middle of the forest, and even the girls seem to sense some very strong magic being used deep inside the forest. Diablo starts moving towards it, fascinated by the strong aura, when suddenly his own flight magic wears off, and he starts falling down. He thrashes through the tree branches and falls on something soft and gooey. He then turns around to see a white-skinned, beautiful girl laying on the ground who starts calling him God. He seems to be confused at this while a guy starts screaming at him for killing his beast mushroom. Diablo realizes that the guy seems to be a paladin from the Holy Church and looks like he really loves sausages. Diablo quickly starts acting like a tough guy and tells the Pride Flag that he doesn't give a shit about his mushroom as he is the Demon King. But before he could complete his sentence, the girl starts calling him God again. She looks at him with eyes full of devotion and introduces herself as Lum, who is a devout follower and has been praying to him for an insanely long time. She covers herself and thanks Diablo while confused about her calling him God. Suddenly, the sausage guzzler claims that Diablo is no god and he is just a lowly demon, and Diablo tries to correct that he is a demon king, but the girl interrupts again and calls him God. She claims that Diablo appeared here from the heavens because of her prayers. She then warns Diablo to be careful as this paladin is a high-ranking man and very dangerous, while the paladin gets pissed off at them and claims that he will kill them both. Diablo turns towards him and asks why the church wants to kill a priest, but the paladin replies that he is just following orders of a high-ranking guy from the church called Vishos. The paladin then decides that he has talked enough and uses a vial to create a giant hunter worm who Diablo recognizes to be at least level 60. Diablo commends him for having such a high-ranking familiar, as in the city no one is this strong, but claims that it is no match for him. Suddenly the ground beneath Diablo gives way and he falls down alongside Lum to find the worm had laid a trap. He catches Lum and dodges before the worm can shut its jaws and jumps up through the hole back to the surface. After that, he quickly turns back and uses a wind magic to easily shear the worm into a million pieces, which shocks the paladin as he didn't expect such a high level of wind magic from Diablo. Paladin seems to be a bit shocked but mocks Diablo by saying that he can't use that magic again because it consumes a lot of mana, but Diablo replies that he can fire that spell 100 times if he wants to. Paladin gets mad and thinks that Diablo is lying before throwing a couple of vials on the floor that convert into a bunch of monsters that are pretty high level. This doesn't faze Diablo at all, and he uses a huge ice magic spell which immediately covers the entire ground with ice and freezes the paladin alongside all of his monsters in an instant. After that, he turns towards Lum only to realize that she must be feeling really cold as well, but she simply moves forward and gets knocked out in Diablo's hands. Rem and Shara both run inside of the forest and spot him holding an unconscious girl in his arms and ask whether he assaulted this girl as well. He tells them that he has stopped doing that and tells them to follow him, and they leave for the town. By the time May falls, Lum wakes up in the bed surrounded by Rem and Shara, and they quickly become friends. Lum asks about their relationship with Diablo, and they reply that he owns them as they are his slaves. Shara immediately starts disclosing all the details about Diablo, but Rem immediately shuts her up and claims that Diablo is simply their party leader. Meanwhile, in the other room, Diablo instructs Clem to not leave the room and simply munch on the biscuits that she has. He then returns back to Lum and the others, where Lum immediately asks whether he is God or not. Diablo realizes that he can't reveal who he is and claims that he won't tell her anything until she shows her true worth, and Lum immediately gets off the bed and bows down in front of him before claiming that from now on she will be in his service. He asks what position she belongs to in the church, and she starts shining brilliantly before claiming that she is the high priest of the central church. This shocks everyone around them, as the head priest is one of the highest ranking people inside of a church. Rem asks why is a paladin from the central church after one of the highest ranking priests in the whole kingdom, and Lum replies that the church is controlled by people known as cardinals, and she believes that one of the cardinals have some kind of beef with her, so instead of challenging her to a boxing match, they decides to assassinate her. Moreover, all the paladins or the church knights follow the head of the cardinals known as Vishos. Diablo asks whether she has any idea why the cardinals might be angry at her, and she thinks before replying that she questioned them about the illegal goods and money they have, or maybe she ordered an investigation on them. Diablo realizes that she has the brain capacity of a hot dog and cares for morals more than her own life, as she doesn't even understand how easily these men can take her life. Rem asks why she was inside of the forest, and Lum replies that she set on a journey from the royal capital through the old demon lord's domain into the nearby city where the head paladin was sent earlier. She wants to tell him everything that has been happening in the church in the guise of God's work, and wants to expose Vishos. Rem thinks that making a YouTube video about them would be easier, but Lum claims that the head paladin is a celebrated warrior who has fought in countless wars and is really noble as well. She claims that he will definitely help her and even protect her from these men, as Tria, one of her paladin friends, knows him. She cries over the death of her friend, while Rem claims that the church will send more assassins after her once they learn that she is still alive. She vows that she will not be scared of these men and will cross the border into the bordering city to find the paladin. Diablo suddenly remembers that the area passes through a dungeon that he wants to explore anyways. After hearing her sob story, both Rem and Shara look towards Diablo and begs him to escort Lum through the city so she reaches the paladin safely. He thinks for a bit and realizes that interfering with church business can be very problematic, as the church practically runs the entire country, but he doesn't want to leave this poor girl alone to fend for herself. He comes to the conclusion that if he simply just walks with her and leaves her near the next city, then he shouldn't get into any problem. He jumps aside and gets into his Demon King mood before telling them that he will help her because he is so strong and powerful. Lum drops on her knees to thank him when suddenly Clem enters the room with Edel, who immediately starts crying about more biscuits as the ones she was eating are over. Lum immediately gets wary of them and asks who they are, as she can feel very dark and sinister magic coming from their bodies. Meanwhile, both Clem and Edel get alert about the presence of a priest from the church, as her magic aura seems to be annoying them. Diablo is impressed by their magic sensing abilities, but suddenly realizes that if this keeps going on, they will end up fighting. Adel doesn't spare a moment and immediately rushes to punch Lum, but Diablo stops her at the end moment by blocking her punch. He starts talking in his demon lord voice and tells them that the next time they try to fight each other will be the last time they can ever fight, and they both resign while Clem tells her to stay away from her biscuits, otherwise they'll smell bad. The following days, they immediately left to the neighboring city on a magical ship that floats on sand, and after 2 weeks of ruthless travel in which they had to face a lot of storms, sunny days, and they even got lost, but finally they are able to see the magical tower that was their first destination. They all get off into the city, and Shara immediately starts whining about feeling hungry, but Rem tells her to shut her trap up as they are here to take Lum to the head paladin, and moreover, after looking around the city, they realize that it doesn't seem to be very lively either. While walking, Diablo encounters a small girl who asks whether he wants to know the location of a newly located dungeon, and claims that he is the dungeon guide as well as a master lockpicker named Horn. Diablo asks what kind of dungeon she is talking about, and she replies that there are huge lion statues at the entrance, which immediately catches Diablo's attention. He grabs her and asks whether the dungeon has 13 floors, but the girl honestly replies that no one is able to cross the 3rd floor, so she doesn't know. Diablo asks whether the 3rd floor has a bunch of multicolored slimes, and Horn tells him that she did in fact see a bunch of colorful slime there. Diablo realizes that it is the dungeon that he has been looking for while Horn asks who he is. Before he can even reply, he notices that Lum has gotten herself into trouble once again. She seems to be defending a poor woman and her child who really need a priest to heal a kid, but the paladin kicked her aside because she didn't have money. Horn tells him that this could be problematic as the paladins in this area are massive dipshits and are very violent towards anyone who stands up to them. He notices that Lum is engaging in an argument and being. But he likes this aspect of her and notices that the paladin raises his fist for a punch, but Diablo immediately appears in the middle and uses his magic wand to blast him away in an instant. The paladin falls to the ground while Shara celebrates, but Diablo immediately turns his attention towards the poor woman and asks what's up. The woman tells him that her child is sick and shows a bunch of tattoos on his thigh. Diablo immediately recognizes the disease as the death knell disease, which is an epidemic. She claims that her son needs a doctor immediately because if there are any more marks, he's going to die. Lum tells her to take the child to the church, but the woman starts crying as Horn explains that the church takes a huge amount of money to heal any kind of disease. Lum can't believe that things like this are happening in this world, but Horn tells her to wake the hell up as the real world is ruthless. Finally, she looks at the crying child and claims that she will heal the child herself no matter what. Horn claims that it's easier said than done, but Lum replies that God will protect her before asking Diablo for permission. He gives her a go-ahead and she gets ready to perform the ritual. The baby is placed on a sheet and everyone drops down and starts praying for the child. Suddenly clouds gather all around the sky, and as Lum touches the baby's forehead, the entire area starts glowing in bright yellow. Everyone kneels down at this show of tremendous magical energy, which even surprises Diablo, who suddenly notices that the marks on the baby fade away completely, shocking everyone. The baby immediately starts feeling better as the others celebrate the recovery of the poor boy, while the others are still in awe at the miracle that they just saw. Suddenly the ground starts shaking, which scares everyone, and a man on the towers starts ringing bells claiming that the monster called the Colossal Whale is coming towards them. The sand whale seems to be chasing the magic boat that is heading straight towards the city, and Horn claims that if the whale hits the city, the entire area would be destroyed completely. Yet all are scared, but Diablo takes the command and claims that he will stop this calamity. Everyone tells him that this is way too dangerous, but he arrogantly replies that he is the demon lord from another world who can easily defeat the monster. He gets ready but is really nervous because he doesn't use this magic very often, but he grits his teeth and starts chanting a spell before a dark magic ball emerges from his wand and becomes a black hole which starts sucking everything inside of it. He then chants another spell and puts his wand on the ground, and suddenly a huge arrow emerges from the black hole, but he is scared that even this might not be enough to defeat a monstrosity like this. He realizes that he has no other options and uses his final spell combo and releases the magic arrow, which goes through one of the black holes and hits the whale in the face. The whale seems to be unaffected as it marches on, but stops after a while before a huge dark magic explosion, which starts disintegrating the whale and sucking it into the black hole. But it doesn't seem to be enough when suddenly an unknown man uses a special attack on the whale, damaging it heavily. Diablo is surprised at the strength of the magic when suddenly an unknown woman uses a magic gun to destroy the whale's body, which shocks him as only a very high-ranking person can use a magic gun. The whale finally falls down and the threat is past while Shara and Rem thank him for defending the city. He tells them that it was nothing for him when suddenly a man on horseback arrives with a spear and asks Diablo whether he is the person who used the dark magic blast on the monster. Diablo immediately senses his strength when all the paladins in the area rush around the man, calling him boss and lie that Diablo is the demon lord who was creating problems in the city. Lum recognizes him as the Lord of Paladins. Bat and Diablo realizes that they might be in trouble. He proudly claims that he used the dark magic, while Bat claims that he was the one who attacked the beast later, impressing Diablo as that means this guy is at least level 130. Lum walks up from behind and asks Bat why there are so many paladins present in the city who are not helping the poor people, and asks whether the cardinals gave this order. Bat immediately recognizes her rank, but one of the stupid paladins starts rudely telling her to piss off or he will piss all over her, which angers Bat and he punches the man into oblivion. Bat immediately descends from his horse and drops on his knees, apologizing for the words of his underlings, claiming that he only saw her once when she was little. Diablo contemplates whether they could trust him when a woman speaks up from behind, and Diablo is shocked to see her flying before he notices that she has a special cloak called the Crimson Wing and is also holding a magic gun in her hand. Bat screams at her to show some respect towards the head priest, but the woman tells him to stuff his spear up before descending to the ground and introducing herself as Fan, who governs this area. She asks whether Lum is here to claim even more money from the poor people in this area, while Bat claims that they are forced to ask donations from their followers as the church has been closing down and they have no money. Fan asks why doesn't their god give them money if they want it so bad, but Lum starts preaching about how they are only believers, which will piss anyone off, to be honest. Fan immediately puts her gun in Lum's face and asks whether her god will protect her now, while both Bat and Diablo try to attack her. Surprisingly, she's able to dodge both of the attacks and starts floating in the sky, making fun of them for believing in God. After that, she claims that she has no interest in the church and is only looking for the person who used the dark magic on the whale. This scares Diablo a little, but he asks her what the hell is she planning to do with that person, and she replies that she will make him work for her, and if he resists, she will employ him by force. He then leaves the area, claiming that she will be back soon, while Diablo realizes that she already knows it was him who used dark magic. By the time evening falls, they all sit in a carriage where Bat tells Lum that they all should rest in his mansion, when Shara notices a huge number of people waiting in a long line. Bat replies that they are all waiting to meet the priest in the tent because Fan has closed down all the churches in her jurisdiction. He claims that everyone wants to meet the priest and receive a miracle to help them with their problems, and for that they stay in line for days on end. Diablo then notices a group of wealthy-looking people chilling on chairs, and Bat explains that they are also waiting in lines but are being given the VIP treatment because they offered large sums of donation. Lum seems to be shocked by this, but Bat claims that they don't have enough priests, so they are forced to focus on those people who are offering more money to the church. They finally reach Bat's mansion, where they eat a bunch of curry, after which Lum asks Bat if they can talk alone. Later that night, Lum and Bat have a conversation in private, where he explains that he has created a paladin brigade in this city for the protection of the one priest here, but it was totally his fault for letting these paladins turn rowdy and disrespectful towards the locals over here. He promises Lum that he will take care of this problem before telling her that there is also the death knell disease that they need to figure a way out of, as it is taking lives every single day. Lum seems to be taken aback and asks Bat whether he even thinks that this is some sort of disease, and he nods in agreement. She claims that this is not a disease but a curse, and she realized it when she was healing that poor child in the city. According to her, someone is casting a large-scale curse magic and intentionally threatening the lives of the people in the city. Bat seems to be taken aback by this and slowly smiles before claiming that he didn't think she will be able to tell the difference. Lum immediately gets up from her seat, asking what the hell does he mean when she starts feeling weak and drowsy before falling over to the ground. Rem realizes the treachery and tries to defend herself when suddenly she notices the scented candle and even falls off to the ground. Sometimes later, Diablo, Shara, and Horn enter the room after getting tipped off about something being wrong. They find no one there, and Horn claims that he saw Bat take them away. It turns out that Diablo had his suspicions about this guy, but he didn't think Bat would make his move this soon, and because of that, he got an upper hand. On the other hand, both Lum and Rem wake up and find themselves hung on a cross inside of a weird ritual chamber, which seems to be insanely large. While they were trying to figure out a way to escape, they notice Bat walking up the stairs alongside his thought secretary named Shill. They walk up and get ready for a ritual, but Lum claims that no ritual can be performed in such a corrupt place, but Bat simply laughs and claims that the ritual will work just because how corrupt it is. He then tells Shill to show them the jar she has been carrying, which contains someone's deadly snot, and claims it to be the curse that is causing the death knell disease. He claims that this curse is pure evil, and for that he keeps recruiting devout men and makes them commit sins like gluttony and bloodshed, which powers his curse powers. She asks him why he wants to condemn so many poor people to death, but he claims that he only has one person who he wants to kill, and that person is Fan herself. Lum cannot understand what led to such a noble and pious man to get converted to the dark side, willing to commit genocide just to kill one person. He claims that this is all because of the problems that he has faced in his life. His family was killed, his best friends betrayed him, he was threatened by his superiors. He claims that all these things made him greedy and sinful and there is no going back. He then tells Shil to torture the head priest before killing her, and moves away. Shil gets up to the altar and takes out her whip for torture, but just Diablo arrives just in the nick of time. He looks around the area and realizes that in the game, this is where he fought the boss battle to finish the level. Suddenly, he hears Bat's voice as he walks towards him, claiming that he knew Diablo will come. Diablo smiles and tells him that he has already beaten out the information about Bat's operation here from every single paladin he could find in the mansion. He tells Bat that he knows that he created the Death Knell disease and proudly claims that he is the demon lord from another world who knows everything, but Bat doesn't believe him. He feels bad about it and realizes that only Rem and Shara were dumb and trusting enough to believe that he is in fact the Demon King. Bat acknowledges that Diablo has an unreasonable amount of strength and magical capabilities, but asks whether he is good at fighting on top of stairs. This pisses Diablo off and he takes out his wand and uses explosion magic on Bat, creating a smoke of dust everywhere which ends up causing a tremor and rocks start falling from above. The stairs beneath him give out and he falls down to the ground while Bat claims that if he is smart, he won't use that attack again as it will kill his friends as well. Diablo realizes that Bat is right and alongside that he is extremely fast as well. He thinks about his options, but Bat pushes forward and uses his spear to thrust at him. Diablo is able to dodge the initial blow of the spear divides into three and causes a very deep wound on his left arm. Diablo quickly tries to heal his own hand wound while trying to show himself to be confident in the face of adversity. After that, he creates a magic blast from his wand, which is like a homing missile and only attacks its target without affecting the nearby area, and simultaneously places a bunch of mines on the wall. Diablo expected Bat to get scared and jump over the ball towards him, but instead, Bat simply drops down the stairs while holding the ledge with one hand and waits for the ball to pass, after which he comes back up again. This totally shocks Diablo and he doesn't have a counter as Bat uses one of the strongest martial arts technique and thrusts his spear deep into Diablo's chest while he is unable to defend. His heart gets stabbed as his wand falls from his hands and he realizes that he is going to die. Bat takes out the spear from his chest as he falls to the ground and laughs in his face, claiming that he always makes flawless preparations to even crush the strongest opponents. Suddenly, Diablo grabs his arm and happily claims that killing a demon lord is not that easy before using a massive magic spell, which starts freezing his entire arm into an ice statue. Bat gets scared and immediately drops his spear before using his free hand to cut off the other one. Diablo laughs in his face and acts all confident while on the inside he is extremely scared as he really thought that he would die, and the only reason he survived is because of a magic item which can soak up one deadly attack, and alongside that his horns went into auto recovery, helping him heal quickly. Bat seems to get scared at this point and thinks that Diablo is immortal and uses his last card in play. Shil immediately takes out a knife and walks towards Rem, threatening to kill her if Diablo doesn't stop. Rem shouts at Diablo to keep fighting, but he stops immediately while realizing that he is out of options at this point when suddenly an arrow hits Shil on the arm and she drops the knife. He turns around to see that the arrow was shot by none other than Shara. Suddenly they notice that Shil walks around in pain before getting converted into stone, which Shara should have anticipated as the bow was given to her by Clem. Meanwhile, Horn sneaks his way towards the altar and uses a knife to free Rem. Diablo finally believes that they won this fight and tells Bat to surrender, but he drops to one of his knees and starts talking menacingly about how they will all regret their actions, making Diablo realize that the fight is still on. Bat uses one of his strongest punches at Diablo while he is forced to counter-attack with a dark magic of his own. The collision of their magical attacks causes a huge amount of rocks to fall down from the ceiling, but even though they seem evenly matched, Diablo taps into his reserves and uses one final blast to win the beam struggle. He then quickly descends alongside Shara and jumps towards Rem before telling them all to huddle close to him. And then he uses his floating magic to make the entire altar fly up in the sky, preventing them from getting crushed by the falling debris. They all rejoice and celebrate, but suddenly Lum falls down to the floor and Rem and Shara realize that she has contracted the Death Knell disease. Diablo is shocked by it, but realizes that Bat must have cursed her during his last moments. Shara tells her to heal herself just like she healed the baby, but Diablo tells her that a priest cannot heal themselves no matter what. They all turn towards Diablo as Lum seems to be giving up on life, but Diablo tells her that he won't allow her to die an unflashy death like this and claims that he has a plan that can cure Lum as well as every single person present in this area, and he will not stop until he achieves success. They all ask him what his plan is, and he proudly claims that they are heading towards the dungeon that Horn mentioned, as according to him, it contains a special treasure, which can cure this disease very easily, and he promises to hand over the treasure to Lum so that she can get better and then heal the entire town from this massive pandemic. Lum thanks him from his heart and claims that no matter what happens, she will save each and every individual in this city as she can't see anyone getting hurt as the head priest. Shara seems to be optimistic as well, and Horn tells Diablo to leave the navigation aspect to her as she can take care of that. Everything seems to be going good, but suddenly Rem draws Diablo's attention towards a fleet of oncoming ships, hosting Fan's banner, and on top of that, they see Fa herself alongside her magic gun and big personality. The ship is completely loaded with a bunch of stormtroopers, and before our heroes can react, they are completely surrounded by Fan's ships. Diablo has no idea what the hell is going on and seems to be very nervous as they have already been cornered. He realizes that they are in a really bad situation as he has just gone all out against Bat, and because of that, he barely has any HP to take a hit, and has almost no mana to cast any major spells, and if they are forced into a head-on battle with a high-level gunner, they would be destroyed in the matter of seconds. She cuts straight to the chase and asks Diablo whether he has come to this place from the deep depths of Earth and is genuinely the demon lord that Varric spoke of. Diablo seems to have no idea who Varric is, while Shara and Rem both advise him to not let her provoke him, as if he confesses to be the demon lord, she might start firing at him. He tries his best to suppress his loser personality from saying any cheesy lines, but he ends up shouting out loud that he is the demon lord Diablo and none shall stand in his way to glory and total domination. Shara and Rem realize that he is a lost cause, while Diablo gets into his character and takes out his wand before flailing around and shouting that he won't run away and hide, and if Fan and her cronies want to attack, they are free to do so, but they need to remember that they will die a horrible death. Fan isn't backing down so easily and shouts back that she isn't scared of the rabid dog barking and orders his men to take aim at the demon lord. The soldiers get ready to fire while the girls have no idea what's going to happen. Diablo is shocked to see so many of her men with magic guns and realizes that there is no way out of here when suddenly Lum stands up and walks towards the front, asking Fan to stop. She claims that Diablo here isn't an enemy, as he has saved not only her but also the people of this town, and she is ready to bear total responsibility for his actions as she believes that he is an ally to humanity. Fan retorts back by asking why he calls himself the Demon Lord, but before Diablo could reply something stupid, Shara and Rem both step forward and announce that they are going to the nearby dungeon to get the cure for the Death Knell disease, and Shara asks Fan to hold her horses till they come back at least. Fan doesn't seem to be trustful of them at all and doesn't believe that such a cure exists, and asks why would a man claiming to be the Demon Lord try to find a cure to this disease. Lum immediately shows her juicy chicken thighs with cross marks on her and claims that Diablo cares for her and the normal people, and only for them he is going inside of the deadly dungeons. Fan seems to be amused by this and tells them that she will make them her prisoners and gain more information, but Diablo realizes that he can't let themselves be captured and grabs his wand to use a special earth magic. A magic circle appears, and suddenly the land beside them starts shaking violently, scaring all of Fan's underlings, while Diablo picks Lum up and tells the others not to leave his side before they start running together. They end up escaping the clutches of Fan, and by the time evening falls, they sit down in a desert beneath a shipwreck that Horn took them to and eat food on an open campfire. While everyone is enjoying a lovely evening, Diablo seems to be confused and troubled as he remembers that Fan was able to get control over herself while they were running and had a clear shot, but even though she could have easily shot him full of holes, she decided not to. Rem takes him out of his thoughts and offers him a piece of meat that she cooked over fire, while even Shara offers him a piece of her juicy meat. Shara looks at Rem and tells her that her meat is Diablo gets up in agreement as Rem's meat will probably start moving soon and tells everyone to eat their fill and get some good quality rest, as it will take them 3 days to reach the dungeon. After 4 days, they finally arrive at the dungeon, and Shara, the massive idiot, immediately runs inside only to get attacked by the statue on top, but Diablo is as sharp as ever and uses explosion magic immediately to blast away the beast. The door to the dungeon opens up and they start moving down, while Horn explains that each floor is a trap and they have to get past that trap to ascend to the next level. The first level consists of a huge maze which they have to maneuver through in order to ascend to the next floor. Shara seems to be scared of getting lost, and Rem is having fun claiming that she will become a skeleton soon enough if she gets lost here. She immediately clings onto Diablo, but he needs to stay a Sigma male who doesn't fall for girls, so he tries to be cool and tells her to get away from her. This ends up resulting in Shara crying, but thankfully Rem tells her that he did that so that he can easily move around and protect her. Diablo was crying the happiness that Rem saved the situation before Lum asks how the hell are they going to deal with this maze. Horn claims that they need not worry as she has a map of the entire maze when she came here last time, and with its help they can easily pass through it. She takes it out of her pocket but realizes that the maze has been completely changed. Diablo tells her that the walls of this maze constantly change, which means that any kinds of map are useless here. Everyone is surprised at Diablo's knowledge, but he can't reveal that he has already gone through this dungeon before. Diablo decides to deal with this maze the way he knows best, which is using his overpowered magic to blast through the walls completely, which shocks everyone around him. He starts walking ahead as he knows there are no more traps, but Rem tells him to be careful, and he realizes that he can't simply tell them that he has played this level before, so he decides to act like a haughty demon lord and claims that she is stupid to think that some lowly trap can stop the demon lord Diablo. Rem starts crying while Shara tries to console her. They start walking downstairs again while Shara asks Rem why Diablo is acting so scary. They head forward and Diablo deals with any and all of the monsters that come in front of him with exceeding ease, using his overpowered magic to shut everyone down. The next trap makes them dangle over a pit of lava while it asks them trick questions, and if they don't answer it correctly, their platform lowers down more into the lava. Thankfully for them, Lum is able to answer the question correctly, and they move towards the next level. They'd walk through the entrance of the next level only to find a freezing room filled with ice gorillas. They seem to be all waiting for some kind of performance, and Rem remembers a sign saying that the next floor will only open when they perform for the gorillas. Diablo remembers his days when he had female teammates who performed on the stage, which let them move ahead while the girls are scared that maybe if they don't perform well, the gorillas will attack. Diablo tells them not to worry and gives them a crash course to dancing, and with his producer-level skills, the girls are ready in no time. The performance begins, and all of the gorillas seem to enjoy the show endlessly, and the door to the next area opens. They all seem to be exhausted by all the work they put in and decide to take some well-deserved rest while thinking about what other challenges can be awaiting their journey ahead.